Great Lord, we have brought the offering. Now hear our call. Grant me the visions. What does the future hold for the Dark Spear? I see betrayal, death, and worst of all, neglect.
Hello, man.
This island is gonna explode. We can't stay here, but the visions have shown me we can't trust the greenskins either. We need to run, go with them, gain their trust, and once we reach those distant shores, get away from them. Flee or kill them, it doesn't matter. Just don't join their horde, or the Dark Spear will die out.
Welcome, my friends. It's troll time. The rules are simple as always. Play on hard, workers are allowed, no orc units are allowed to fight, and impossible no-build missions may be skipped. The units I have access to in this run are listed on screen and will be discussed in more detail as I unlock them. You know the drill by this point, so let's just jump right into the hardest first mission yet. As is tradition, the first mission is a no-build mission, but unlike the last two campaigns where the first one was either impossible or incredibly easy, this one was both possible and difficult. I'm given my first and by far best unit of this run, the Troll Headhunter, a medium-range, slow-attacking unit that will make up the majority of my armies going forward. In this mission, I start with 2 of them, and have to run around the map taking down groups of creep mobs and rescuing other trolls. The only thing making this mission even vaguely possible is the short leash ranges of the enemies on the map. The first enemies waiting for me are a group of murlocs that are dangerously close to where I spawn in. When I hit them with my headhunters, they will chase me all the way back to the shoreline, but stop and turn around just before getting in melee range. If they stayed aggressive for any longer, this intro may well have been impossible. Thankfully, every enemy on the map is similarly exploitable, even the ranged ones that I encountered shortly afterwards who were holding some trolls hostage. They didn't do very much damage, but with no sources of healing, any damage that I took would take around 5 minutes to fully recover from. The only truly dangerous enemies were the ranged centaurs that had access to searing arrows, but up until the end they didn't appear in large enough numbers to ever slay a troll. By the end of the mission, I had 7 trolls to defend Cairn and his Tauren from 5 increasingly more dangerous waves of marauding centaur. The ranged units would focus down my trolls, causing me to take heavy damage and even lose one, but the cows were strong enough to carry me to victory here. The Orc campaign has a substantial number of no-build missions, all of which provide at least one non-Orc unit, meaning I can't skip any of them. I went into this run foolishly thinking that it would be easy, like the human campaign was, but these no-build missions were here to prove me wrong. The second Orc mission is normally super simple, needing you to only escort a Tauren caravan to 3 healing wells around the map while centaur waves constantly attack. The enemy forces on the way to each well aren't very strong, and the Tauren can handle themselves for a really long time. In this run though, I have 4 trolls, and nothing else. As easy as this mission can be, 4 trolls can't fight any of the centaur attacks by themselves without taking heavy damage. Every attack required me to rely on the Tauren that I was supposed to be protecting to soak up the damage for me. Making things even worse, the Tauren refused to move forward unless Princess Thrall was personally leading them. Getting the first healing well proved to be a massive headache. I had to send Thrall in early just to keep the caravan moving, making sure to spam a bunch of move commands so that he wouldn't attack anything. Once he reached the well, I was given 3 new grunts that I had to quickly get killed before they did anything useful, and all of this while trying to protect the Tauren and their Kodos from the centaur forces that they were now running headfirst into. This took a lot of reloads, and around 30 minutes to get right, and even then my best attempt still resulted in me losing one of my 4 trolls and most of the Tauren that were helping Cairn guard the caravan. Luckily, after the first well was reached, the rest of the mission was a little bit easier. There were less attacking centaur on the way to the second well, and while there were more defenders along the road, Cairn was able to take most of them down by himself. More importantly, once Thrall got to the second well, I was given 3 Demolishers to help fight. Without the added splash damage from the Demolishers, I would not have been able to effectively hold off the last few groups of attacking Centaur without losing a Kodo. In fact, I couldn't afford to lose another Kodo, because I only had 2 left. If one more died, the mission was over. The final obstacle in my way was a blockade, consisting of a large number of defensive towers guarded by a couple of Centaurs. I expected this to be a brutal challenge, where I'd have to balance time spent sieging with time spent defending the caravan from attacks, but to my surprise, the attack waves just stopped. I was free to take my time in clearing out the last section of the map, and after the pain that was the Undead campaign, a slow, careful siege like this was incredibly easy. Once all the structures were busted and the Centaur were slain, I sent Thrall to the last well, guiding Cairn and his Kodos there with no retaliation, and finishing the mission. The third mission is the first one where I can build my own units in this campaign, and also showcased exactly why the Orcs can't be trusted. To start off, I have 2 Trolls and a bunch of stinky Orcs, and have to help Grommash break a human base that I'm meant to take over and turn into my main. I decided to help him only a little bit, keeping him occupied clearing out all the leftover human buildings while I started up Troll production. He was so helpful that he nearly fooled me into thinking that he was a reasonable orc, simply defending himself when I arrived. Clearly he was offended by this thought and rushed off to prove me wrong by attacking every other group of humans on the map. He did no relevant damage, simply provoking a fight with reckless disregard for the lives of my trolls. After holding a few attacks, I was fed up with wasting the lives of my men for a conflict started by an orc, and decided to force Grom and his men to help out. I pulled every subsequent attack wave away from my base and into Grom's, letting him get more than his fair share of the combat he so craved. In the meantime, I was able to peacefully work on Troll and Demolisher production, preparing for a big counterattack. As soon as I had a few Demolishers and a strong enough Troll army, I attacked the light blue humans. They may not have started this conflict, but they sealed their fate when they killed a single innocent Troll. The Paladin hero was the most dangerous threat in the base, and did destroy a fair number of my Demolishers, but once he was dealt with, the rest of the base fell easily, giving me my first expansion. From this point on, I made sure to max out while continuing to force Grom to help me defend, and then steamroll the other human bases. They were better defended than the first, but with a full 100 supply army, they never stood a chance. With all the humans gone, there was only one foe left. I wasn't about to let Grom get away with endangering Troll lives just to sate his bloodlust. So, while I could have just finished the mission now, I made it a point to destroy Grom's entire base and kill all of the Orcs who helped him. I remembered from playing these campaigns as a kid that if you attack enough of Grom's forces, he'll become hostile and fight back, unlike most other AI allies in these type of games. I was in for a fight, but he needed to be punished. Grom's base was easily the most dangerous of the bases that I assaulted in this mission. With a high concentration of orc units and his AI being smart enough to load peons into burrows, I lost quite a few forces to his army. When analyzing the conflict, my trolls had the range advantage and more damage, but the orcs had the defender's advantage, a hero unit, and more health. Overall, the fight was pretty even. It's a good thing trolls have better tactics than orcs. Before engaging his army, I surrounded my Demolishers with my headhunters and clumped my army up against a wall. I knew that he would try to get into my backline and break my Demolishers first, so this strategy ensured that I was able to deal maximum damage before his forces got into position, while also minimizing the surface area that his melee troops could attack from. By the time they were able to destroy a single Demolisher, most of Grom's important buildings were burning piles of rubble, and his frontline grunt force was barely holding on. With no more reinforcements coming, my trolls were able to turn their attention to the Blade Master himself. By the time they were done, he looked like a porcupine from the number of spears inside of him.
I can wait no longer. Our hero has been slain.
With him gone, the rest of the buildings were cleaned up post-haste, and my trolls moved on to greener pastures. You get it? Greener pastures? Because everything is green now? As if for some freakish sort of punishment, I'm given Grom as my hero in the next 2 missions. Needless to say, he was quickly discharged from the Darkspear armed forces before he was able to cause any more harm. Unfortunately, his mere presence had already angered the local elves who began attacking me. Seeing as they were already past the point of negotiation, I figured I should gather some lumber while I'm here. After all, there's basically nothing but trees around. I made sure to cut down every tree in my secluded starting area before opening a hole in the forest for the elves to attack from. This took about 20 minutes, but gave me a 3,500 lumber head start to my 15,000 goal. As soon as the wall was breached, I booked it to the available gold mine and started gathering gold to train new trolls. I had to be fast so that my base wouldn't die to the first attack waves, given my critical lack of starting forces. Once I had enough trolls, I cut down one of the elven ancients for 3,000 more lumber on the way to the next gold mine. That mine in particular was being guarded by dark trolls, who were promptly evicted before their land was colonized for my new troll empire. With 2 sources of gold, I was able to build enough towers to hold off the elven attacks, giving my army free reign to attack enemy bases. It was at this point in the mission, and halfway through the campaign, where I realized just how much the Orc campaign wants you to use hero units. My trolls were unable to accept the secondary quest from the neutral goblins that would have given me access to free shredders for faster lumber gathering. Only Grom can talk to the goblins. I would have to gather the 15,000 lumber on my own. Between this and the Cairneavan from Mission 2 only moving if Thrall was in front, I was getting the feeling that the developers may have intended people to use orcs in the Orc campaign. But that's just a hunch. Without the shredders, the fastest way to get more lumber was to defeat Night Elf bases and destroy their ancients, and that's exactly what I did. I decided to only build headhunters here, just for the fun of it, so every siege took a little bit longer than it would have with demolishers. Headhunters have less range than archers, so I had to send my trolls deep into the elves to negate their advantage. Once in position, they could easily ravage the small group of elves and the sentient trees they hid behind. It took 4 ancients to gather all the lumber needed, and while my trolls were celebrating this victory, the consequences of their actions were just around the corner. Despite the early hurdles, this campaign has been progressing rather quickly and smoothly, but Cenarius was up next, and such a powerful foe was certain to delay me. As is apparently tradition in these Grom missions, I'm given a starting army of mostly orcs that I can't use. After liberating my orcs from their bloodlust, I'm given about 4 minutes to set up defenses in my main base, while Cenarius and the elves destroy my outlying bases. I think it's prudent to mention here that Orc has always been my least favorite faction in this game, meaning I haven't replayed this campaign nearly as many times as the other ones. I took the early freedom to build up an expansion and 2 more barracks while prioritizing research over a larger army or more towers, assuming that the first attacks wouldn't be all that dangerous. Once my outer bases were fully broken and the attacks began, I found that my poor memory had left me entirely unprepared. I had 5 headhunters, 2 witch doctors, and a spread out handful of towers to fight a moderate-sized ground army, a contingent of hippogriff riders, and 3 chimeras. The chimeras were by far the most dangerous threat. They already had their anti-building upgrade, and just generally had enough health to fight all of my trolls. I was only able to hold this first attack thanks to my witch doctors, the new unit given on this mission. I had prioritized master training for them so they had access to all of their spells. They can provide vision around the map, lay down cloaked stasis traps, and heal my army with healing wards. The enemy AI doesn't frequently target down these totems, allowing my witch doctors to chain stun ground forces while keeping my army high health. After the first attack, the mission slowed down a bit, and my strong economy from my early expansion helped me build up many towers and a robust army of my 2 types of trolls. Now I had time, but I still needed a way to get rid of Cenarius without using orcs. With the Divine Armor type, he takes 95% less damage from everything other than chaos damage. Without using orcs, I can't even access chaos damage. My trolls would need to defeat the Forest Lord the old-fashioned way. I ultimately decided that my best course of action was to clear out all of the other elven bases on the map to halt their attacks and steal their gold. Cenarius will come to their aid eventually, so I need to deal crippling damage before he comes in and forces my retreat. I made use of the Witch Doctor's vision wards by placing them on the pathway that Cenarius would approach from to give myself extra time to evacuate. In the meantime, my headhunters stepped deep into the first elven base. By staying just out of melee range of their trees, I was able to minimize damage taken while I targeted down their workers and their production. By the time Cenarius arrived, it was too late to save the base. The other 2 bases fell in much the same fashion. All the while I was researching every leftover upgrade to prepare for the big fight. The next 30 minutes were spent mining out the map and building 12 barracks closer to the front lines for faster reinforcements. It didn't all go smoothly though, and this time the issue was not the elves. It was Reforged. For the most part, the game hasn't had any major hiccups for me in these runs, but on this mission, it started stuttering for about half a second every 10 seconds or so. After putting up with it for almost 2 hours, it was getting on my nerves, and I changed some graphic settings in an attempt to fix it. Huge mistake. Nothing that I did fixed the issue, and now all of my structures had lost their key bindings. For my epic Cenarius fight, I would now have to click to build every new troll. Thankfully, after this mission, the issue fixed itself and my keybinds came back, but it was a huge headache. Having begrudgingly accepted Reforged the way that it is, I went out to fight the big man. I could have just cheesed him with infinite towers after luring him out of his base, but that just wasn't troll enough for me. No, I was going to destroy him and his whole base. I marched an army full of headhunters up his ramp, fearless of the demigod or his forces, and began impaling everything in sight. In a few minutes, the base fell. Cenarius was cornered and alone, surrounded by angry trolls. It only took 4 hits for him to bury one of my trolls 6 feet under, and he had 4,000 health to chew through. 3 minutes passed, and all of my witch doctors had long since died while he was still standing strong. Determination could not save him though. I had an endless tide. After 8 minutes of straight combat and 18,000 gold worth of trolls, the protector of the forest was slain. Meanwhile, Grommash the Stupid found some demon blood lying around and chose to drink it, recursing his entire race. I hate this guy. After all that, we get to rejoin the princess who's trying to reach an oracle in the Stone Talon Mountains. The orcs alone would have never made it, but lucky for them, a real hero, Cairn Bloodhoof, stepped up to help, and he brought his Tauren. With them, my army was now at max power. Headhunters fight from range with strong damage. Tauren soak up hits in the front lines while bringing cleave damage thanks to Pulverize. Witch Doctors keep everyone full life while also providing vision and control. Demolishers focus down key buildings, and Cairn ties it all together by buffing the movement and attack speed of all nearby forces. It felt glorious. A horde without orcs. The humans stood no chance. I casually completed every bonus on the map and destroyed every single human building just for fun. Riding this high, I happily progressed to the next mission. I should not have been happy. Those of you who watched my Undead campaign video may remember that Black Rock and Roll 2 took me 7 hours to complete, requiring 4 full mission restarts. Well, this seemingly simple no-build mission took me 5 hours straight. 1 attempt, no restarts. All because the pretty Princess Thrall brought his personal bodyguard squad in instead of any trolls. I had 1 witch doctor to clear out an entire dungeon full of undead creatures. Quick aside, I had to retry my battle against the first 4 enemies, and that's what you're watching now. I accidentally used an orc against these first skeletons in my initial attempt, so I had to redo it. The rest of the mission was done legally on the first try, though. Every fight boiled down to my 1 witch doctor placing a stasis trap, hitting the enemy once to drag them into the trap, landing 3 shots while they were stunned, and then running away so they wouldn't chase. Sometimes, if I was fast, I could land a free hit without angering my target, but this was rare and inconsistent. Any creep with a ranged attack was a serious threat and would end up wasting even more of my time. With melee creeps, I could eventually beat them purely by kiting, not needing to wait for stasis ward mana, but the ranged ones would kill my troll if I tried that. It's not like I could even just poke at them without mana, because every enemy in the dungeon, for some reason, has higher HP regeneration than my troll. I would have to constantly wait for full mana so that I could use 5 stasis traps back to back, otherwise I would risk my foes regenerating too much health for me to ever kill. Everything that I've shown now and described now, though, is child's play compared to the 3 most dangerous and tedious enemy groups in the dungeon. The first is this group of 4 cultists. The big ones have high HP and high damage, while the small ones have medium armor that takes reduced damage from my Witch Doctor's magic attacks. On its own, this would have sucked, but for some unholy reason, these cultists have a blazingly fast turn rate. Every time that I wanted to start fighting one, I would get hit, even when I had the high ground. Taking so many hits forced me to AFK for about 7 minutes after each fight to regenerate my health and mana. Absolutely terrible. The second painful fight was this Lightning Revenant. It has 750 health, medium armor, above average health regen, and my traps only stunned it for half the normal duration. Every shot I fired did less than 10 damage, and I could land 2 hits with optimal pathing. What you're watching here, I had to do for 12 minutes straight. Every time that I messed up a rotation causing the Revenant to chase me across the dungeon, he would regenerate health equivalent to 15 shots. Once it got low, it tried to cast a spell on me, which I could quickly outrange, slightly increasing my DPS. After beating him, I had been recording for probably 3.5 hours, and I thought that it wouldn't get any worse. I don't know why I would think that, because the final boss was just ahead. 4 skeleton archers, 2 melee skeletons, and a 1500 HP Death Revenant. I wanted to give up when I saw this. This wasn't like the Undead campaign, where it felt like I was solving a puzzle, where I felt like I was doing a challenge. I knew full well that I could beat every enemy in this dungeon with this one troll, but after all I'd done, I didn't want to fight another enemy even if I one-shot it. I was beyond done. There was no skill, just a bunch of wasted time and tedium. I had to take a step back. I walked away for 20 minutes to steel myself, and when I came back, had to remind myself that the rest of this recording would go to waste if I didn't finish this now. There was nothing left to do but press on. I took out all the skeletons first, and then it was time for pain.
Tadingo!
With that creature felled, I was nearly free. The big skeleton ahead can be skipped, as can the humans that were huddled behind the world's strongest gate, and after them I can rescue 5 headhunters. Thrall had to step in and grab an item to progress, but for all intents and purposes, the challenge was now passed. The rest of the mission is built to be done with only cows, so I finished it casually, and was finally done. By Demons Be Driven is the mission that I've been waiting for. I finally have the chance to prove that the Horde doesn't need orcs to thrive. By decimating the orcs jacked up on demon juice without using any of my own, I could solidify the partnership between the Tauren and the Trolls once and for all. Even better, the humans were happy to work with us when they found out that we were trying to get rid of Grommash the Instigator. The entire enemy force is comprised of fell orcs that have chaos damage, and their demons. Most attack waves consist of 2 or 4 infernals that rain from the sky, landing either near my base or near my largest clump of forces. These absurdly powerful demons take 10 towers to reliably beat without losses. My human allies are mostly self-sufficient, but do need help when attack waves begin to stack up. First things first, on mission start I need to rush to get my tech started, and I need vision of incoming attacks. I've learned by now that in these challenges, the early stages of a mission are usually the hardest. I start by building a large group of peons to harvest more lumber while researching Witch Doctor training and +1 attack for my headhunters. I also rush for fortress tech so that I can start up a Tauren totem. Without the frontline beef of the Tauren, my army won't last long against the demons. While this happens, I send my 2 starting Witch Doctors out on the map to lay down sentry wards along all the major attack routes that the enemy orcs could take, allowing me to pre-position my army for optimal defense. Once my fortress finishes, I research pillage. In the campaign, Cairn and the Tauren get value from this upgrade, unlike in multiplayer. I planned to attack early to clear out an expansion base, so the extra resources gained from the upgrade will further accelerate me towards +3/+3. The very first Fel Orc attack hits around 6 minutes in, but Cairn at this point is completely stacked with strong items and can solo tank the entire force easily. By now, my Tauren totem is nearly complete, and other upgrades are constantly running in the background. Every spare resource is already being funneled into more troll production. Just as planned, I attack the lightly defended gold mine with my troll squad, only 8 minutes in, securing an additional base for continued production. And then the demons arrived. Going into this mission, I did not think that the infernal attacks would cause serious problems. After all, I had a massive income and a powerful army, but I was wrong for 2 reasons. The first being the frequency of the attacks. Infernals land so often and are so durable that I need my army there to defend my base until I have a full tower wall, preventing me from playing aggressive like I wanted. The second reason is far, far worse though. It's Thrall. Every time that I'm forced to use an orc, it ruins my plans. This mission is the one that really stuck it in my mind how hard-coded the orc campaign is to interact with the orc heroes. The infernal attacks are meant to land either near my forces or near my base, but when Thrall is alive, they will land on Thrall. The first wave of infernals spawned on my gold mine to attack the weak and pitiful Princess Thrall, and when he tried to fight back, I had to reload. I reloaded at least 5 times trying to get a good fight, but it always sucked, and was very hard to keep Thrall out of the action. Even if I beat back the first waves, the next one would also spawn on Thrall. This left me with only one option. I had to kill Thrall. I reloaded to before I cleared out my expansion and sent the terrified princess into my tower line for execution. With Thrall gone, the Infernals now targeted my army, which was able to easily dispatch them without any pesky orcs getting in the way. By now, my Tauren totem had finished constructing, and I noticed something strange. I had access to the Frozen Throne unit, the Tauren Spirit Walker, but couldn't upgrade them. I'm not sure why this happened, but I wasn't going to look a gift cow in the mouth and built 2 of them. They sat around in ethereal form, immune to the damage of most enemies, and used Spirit Link on my Witch Doctors and my front line to spread out the damage that I was taking. With Spirit Link and healing wards, my army was practically invincible. With the rest of my supply, I built mostly Tauren and Demolishers, and after fortifying both bases, was finally able to attack again. The Fel Orcs were not messing around. Their bases were heavily fortified, and the sheer damage coming out of every individual unit made each attack very costly. I got incredibly unlucky on my first real push into their base. Just as I went in for an attack, an enemy attack wave towards my base intercepted me. This fight quickly turned into an all-out brawl that I couldn't control. I lost most of my caster units and took heavy damage everywhere else. Truly, looking back, this is an insane amount of Fel Orcs. Cairn and his Tauren really carried this fight. My trolls were simply too fragile to be effective. That fight was the deadliest one in the whole mission. After I remaxed, I sent my forces towards Grom. With no attack wave to rush my backline, the defenders in the next Fel Orc base were far too few to survive my siege, and the demons protecting Grom fared even worse. Doomguards are normally very scary units, but an army as complete as mine sent them back to the Twisting Nether in seconds. Before I knew it, my army was staring down Gromish Hellscream. Grom the Instigator. Grom the Reckless. Grom the Stupid. And the indirect cause of hundreds of troll deaths. After all the pain he caused, neither the Tauren nor the trolls were inclined to show mercy. They were going to kill Grom or die trying. Right as Cairn and his men gained the upper hand, and Grom was bleeding out before them, the traitorous Princess Thrall, presumed dead, rushed in and saved him. Thrall trapped his friend in a soul gem, hoping to one day cleanse his spirit. Regardless of the intentions, though, this was the final straw. In saving Gromish, Thrall had forever stained the Orcs' reputation and their honor in the lands of Kalimdor. They had made enemies of the Night Elves, the Tauren, the Trolls, the surviving humans, and even the Centaur. With the whole world against them in these harsh new lands, the Orcs were sure to slowly die out. The last vestiges of their once proud race huddled in caves, scratching cautionary tales of Grommash the Betrayer into the walls. The man who brought their race to ruin. Well, that run was pretty fun. Doing these campaign challenges has made me want to start playing 1v1s, which I normally don't do. It sounds like a fun idea to see how high ranked I could get using this same challenge rule set. Across my last 2 videos, I've gotten a lot of comments excited for the Night Elf campaign, and I'm really looking forward to starting it. Night Elf is my favorite faction in this game, so I'm expecting some fun missions in that one. I also plan on starting streaming soon, some days in the near future. I have some new challenge run ideas that could be really fun to stream, or can also just go live so I can chat with you all while playing a MOBA or something with my friends. If that appeals to you, then keep an eye out for when I go live. All that said, thank you all for watching, and if you want to see the rest of this series, throw me a sub. It helps my channel grow while increasing the odds you'll see my next upload. A win-win in my opinion. Hopefully I'll see you all again next time for when the forest takes matters into its own hands. Or branches.